Hey Bookends! Welcome to a 10-minute book review. I'm 10. Today's book review will be on Star Wars, Poe Dameron, Freefall by Alex Segura. Full disclosure, this book was provided to us for free via NetGalley for the purpose of an open and honest review. So there's really nothing to show you because there's no picture. So once again, we'll put something up here somewhere. But yes, we like to start off every book review with a star point, as in out of 10 stars. How many stars did this particular book garner? And we also like to give a rating, as in if this was a movie or a TV show, what would it be rated? Star point wise, this book is a 7 out of 10 stars. It was not bad. I do recommend it to Star Wars fans, such as myself. And as a rating, it is a PG, which is kind of the rating that would normally be given to a Star Wars book or Star Wars, well, I shouldn't say always. Sometimes it can range into the PG-13, but this is more so a PG. You know, this is like one of the movies you'd see in the theater. So jumping right on in, the book starts off on Yavin 4, where apparently it doesn't expressly say that Poe was born there, but it does say that's where he was raised. So apparently, perhaps from a toddler, from a baby onward, that's where he was raised. His father, Kes Dameron, is a single dad because Poe's mother, Shara, was somehow killed either in a mission or an action, we're not sure. She was a rebel fighter pilot, and his father was a pathfinder. They fell in love, they got married. After the Death Star, the second Death Star was destroyed, they settled down on Yavin 4, which is kind of like a port planet, kind of. I think it's a moon. Sounds of the hood? Yeah, sounds of the hood. Anyway, yes, so it's a moon, and his father is a farmer. So, Poe doesn't want to be a farmer. He doesn't want to stay in a farming town. He doesn't want to grow up and inherit farmland. When we first meet him, he's in his mother's Y-Wing, I believe it is, and he is basically joyriding. So he's joyriding in a spaceship, and he's like 16. He ends up getting shot down, and you know, by security, because he's joyriding. And we meet his dad, who comes to bail him out, and a guy who's like a uncle to him, Lululo, L-U-L-O. And yeah, so we just basically get a feel for a young man who's restless and doesn't want to be where he is and is desperate to be somewhere else. He doesn't exactly want to be a rebel, he hasn't said that, but he does want adventure. Which technically, I guess there are no more rebels, because if the Empire has been toppled, then the rebels are now the new government, which is the New Republic. So, yes. Anyway, he ends up meeting this group. The main person, I mean, there are 4 people in the group already, but the person that he really becomes closest to is Zori. They need a pilot because their pilot has expired due to being a traitor. So he tells them that he's like the best pilot on Yavin 4, and they're like, yeah, sure, cool, just get us off and we can do this. So he pilots their ship off-world, and they end up getting away by claiming that they've kidnapped him. And he's in on it. He's in on the whole kidnapping thing. Fast forward a little bit, he finds out that these are spice runners, which are kind of like smugglers. And they are the spice runners of Kimiji, which is this like underworld planet. It is a like criminal planet. It's like if you could imagine a planet that belonged to mafia, drug dealers, smugglers, this is just a really bad planet. And, well, a good planet if you're a criminal, but a bad planet if you're not a criminal. So he gets in with these essentially spice smugglers, and yeah, the book follows his adventures with them and how he, I don't want to say that he's really one of them, but because he falls in love, or at least in deep like, with Zuri, he stays with them. There's another player in this book. Her name is Sela Troon. She is a part of the New Republic task force that's in charge of getting rid of crime, or at least deterring it. She is very young. She's 22, and yet she is raised up the ranks in it. We find that she has a special affinity for getting rid of spice runners because of what they did to her family. No spoilers, just what they did to her family. And so the book follows these two arcs. We have Poe, who is, the main person. We're following him while he interacts with these spice runners as he's trying to figure out what he really wants to do, whether or not this spice running life is what he wants, or if what he really wants is Zuri, and she's just a part of this, so he's a part of it as well. And we also get to follow Sela Troon to a lesser extent as she follows her passion of trying to get rid of these spice runners, especially the ones of Kiminji. So, in the way of endings, I don't want to spoil that. But, of course he has to live because this is a prequel. This is when he's a teenager. And, of course, the Star Wars movies are when he's an adult. There are a lot of dog fights in this. It's a lot of action. I love Star Wars books. I don't read them for the action because I'm not really into fight scenes and stuff like that, even if they are well written. What I'm there for is really the plot. And this book, I won't say that it's plot heavy, but it is plot dense enough for you to feel like if you skip over some of the actiony parts, you still have a large chunk of story left to enjoy. There is some kissing in it. There's nothing graphic because keep in mind Disney owns Star Wars, and this is also essentially either a teen or tween book. So there is some kissing. There's nothing hot. There's nothing heavy. There's no body parts being touched or mentioned. There is some cursing, but it is the light cursing, and I believe I only counted 3 times, maybe 2 or 3 times. So overall, it's not a bad book. It is recommended if you'd like to get a bit of Poe's backstory, because when you watch the trilogy with him in it, you don't get to really know about his earlier beginnings, unless you're talking about his earlier beginnings with the New Republic, but not what happened before that. Now, let's dive into some other stuff, because there are some other things being discussed in regards to it. Because this is, I'm not the only person who got the first release of this book prior to it actually being released. There have been some whisperings about Poe's sexuality stemming from the first Star Wars movie with him in it, stating that there might have been some sort of connection between him and Finn. If you are reading this book, if you plan on purchasing this book so that you can find out if there is anything to Poe Dameron being bisexual, bicurious, pan, you are not going to be pleased. This book presents Poe as definitively heterosexual, hetero-romantic. So if someone's looking for an ambiguous type of romance, or him being sexually ambiguous, this book kind of puts him firmly into the heterosexual realm, or at least this teenage Poe. Someone did try to say that there was one point where the author shied away from pronouns when it came to his past, people that he loved in his past. But keep in mind, this is a 16-year-old boy living on a planet where there aren't many other people around his age. Most of the people are grown and retired, or grown and going from one place to another place, not staying there. And so his romantic options would be slim. He's 16, so obviously he hasn't been dating for a very long time. There's only one sentence, and it doesn't expressly mention that he is sexually ambiguous in any way, whether it be pan, bisexual, or bi-curious. So if you're getting this book to have any affirmation of that, you're not going to find that in this book. If you're buying it just to find out more about Poe's backstory and his life and his family, then you will thoroughly enjoy this. To give an example of a book or series that features a queer Star Wars character in the forefront, The Last of the Jedi, a series written by Jude Watson, that features a Jedi by the name of Ferris Olin. To give you some backstory on him, Ferris Olin and Anakin were kind of a little bit of rivals because his teacher, his Jedi mentor, had been a bit of a rival with Obi-Wan a little bit. So these two were slightly rivals, slightly friends when they were both Padawan learners. Some stuff went down and some people ended up dying, and Ferris Olin felt personally responsible. Anakin didn't feel responsible, or at least he didn't feel responsible enough to say, I can't do this anymore. But Ferris Olin felt like he was personally responsible, and so he quit the Jedi when he was maybe, I forget how old he was, maybe 16, 17, something like that. And The Last of the Jedi follows him as he goes on different missions to try and basically put for the rebellion, and his connection with Obi-Wan Kenobi. So The Last of the Jedi is basically a prequel to the original Star Wars trilogy. And he had a husband. After he left the Jedi Order, later on he met someone when he settled down on a planet finally. Him and that man ended up getting married. They had somewhat of a life together because, of course, they were still the Empire looking for ex-Jedi. So, of course, he couldn't have been the most quiet of lives. But they had a life together. And his husband ends up getting murdered by Darth Vader for no other reason than to piss Ferris off. No other reason. Just none. It's not that he was trying to get information from him or it served a purpose. The only purpose was just to irritate Ferris. Like, I don't like you, Ferris. You like this dude? Okay, he dead now. Moving right along. So there could be some ambiguity when looking at them. When I read this series as a child, I thought that they were friends, but I thought they were a little closer, just like on the Sailor Moon series, the two Sailor Scouts who are supposed to be like cousins in the English dub, but they just seem a little close. They seem a little too close for cousins, but as kids you don't really question it. But then later on, when you watch the sub, not dub, you find out, oh, they're not cousins. This is her girlfriend. Okay, well, that makes sense. So with Ferris Olin, as a child, I kind of thought, okay, well, if this is his best friend, they seem a little too close for best friends. And it was still written in a child-friendly way, so it wasn't as though they were touching or doing anything that would be inappropriate for a child to read. But it's just the description of their relationship and how close they were kind of felt closer than friends. But if they're saying they're friends, okay, fine, whatever. They didn't actually say they're friends, but in my mind, I figured friends. But as I got older and thought back on it, I'm like, these people are a little too close to be friends. And the author confirmed herself that the two of them were married in a tweet that I will try to include over there if I can find the tweet. But yes, so that is a definitively gay Jedi because he ended up going back into being a Jedi after his... Well, he started working for the rebellion, for the rebels, and he ended up becoming a Jedi again. and he ended up actually protecting Leia, and he died actually fighting Darth Vader to give Luke and Leia some time to escape. So yeah, anyway, here's the bad part about this, or the part that might screw people up. The Last of the Jedi series is not a Legend series. It's not a part of the Legend series. Or I should say doesn't have the Star Wars Legend label on it, which means that it was created pre-Disney. So, just like the fate of Han and Leia's twins, Ferris Olin might no longer exist because he may no longer be canon. Before Disney bought it, it was canon because there was an entire series. It was a scholastic series, just like Jedi Apprentice. It was canon. After Disney, though, it's a possibility that he's no longer canon. Who knows? I have not seen any mention of him in any of the Legend series, but there is a possibility that he may be getting his own. I don't know. I know in the Legend series that features Obi-Wan, that lets you know what he was doing, a brief story about him as to what he was doing after everything went down. It doesn't mention Ferris, so I don't know. But yeah, if you're looking for queer representation in Star Wars and canon queer representation, you're not going to find that in this book. That's not a bad thing though, because Poe doesn't have to be gay. He doesn't have to be bisexual. You know, if that's what the character ends up being as an adult, you know, that is what it is. People can grow into fluidity as they get older. That does happen. But just looking at this openly and unbiasedly, it doesn't appear as though Poe is in any way bisexual, bi-curious, or pan, or sexually ambiguous. Technically, even Ferris Olin wasn't sexually ambiguous. He was definitively gay. I know Donald Glover was saying that Lando Calrissian might have been pan. There is so little to go on. Nothing's really definitive. The only definitive I know is Ferris Olin. If you want to look him up, it's F-E-R-U-S, Ferris, last name O-L-I-N, Olin. Keep in mind, though, he may not be canon anymore. So there's a possibility that, you know, you might look him up and find him and find the Jedi, Last of the Jedi series, and then be disappointed that it's no longer canon, because it may not be. But thank you so much for watching this review of Star Wars Poe Dameron, Freefall by Alex Segura. And if you like what you see, please like and subscribe. Bye, Bookends.